And we're live after
Ooh,
show post Baywatch review.
here we go.
So after sitting through an episode of Baywatch, which I really feel like we should be getting some credit for in some
Yeah.
way.
I mean, there was
I
a
think
cost to that, right?
I think we need at least one more subscriber. And by the way, we need to highlight early the first thing I think we need to talk about this weekend. By the way, how are you doing this week, Nick?
I'm great. I'm great. I think we should just go straight onto your talking point.
You know what I'm going to bring up?
I don't.
We have hit our 10th and 11th subscriber. We've been stuck on
Oh,
9
okay.
subscribers for the better part of 10 months. I would say we raced up to 9 subscribers after we exhausted our friends and family. No, sorry. We raced up to 6, I want to say. And now we've added we got up to then 9, and then for like I think something like the last 8 months we've been sort of hovering on 9. And to go 10 and 11 after last week's show, I'm through the moon.
Yeah, that's a big increase. Do you think Veg was one of those from last week?
I don't know. I don't think so. The
No.
2 names that subscribed, I didn't recognize. I mean, could have been a different.
Oh,
account,
okay.
but, hopefully, we have the same standard of comment, and we're starting to. It's kind of like fishing a bit because I feel like with this banner now, we're just trying to chum the water, just sort of on the heels of that Baywatch episode
We got our transmitter on, pulling them in.
That's right, we do. So what's been going on with you this week?
What's been going on this week? Well, I had my first property workshop, a live event. So for those of you that don't know, I joined a property investing program, and that officially started in April this year. But due to COVID, everything's been done on Zoom, and there's a group of us, I think maybe in the mid-50s. So we've all kind of started to get to know each other virtually online, which has been great. It's been really interesting. I've learned a lot and met a lot of great people. But the Friday just gone was our first live workshop as they tried to attempt getting back into these workshops around all the potential restrictions. So that was quite interesting. Sean knows I'm not a big one for traveling and hotels and all that stuff. So there was, it was good to get out my comfort zone and kind of getting used to that. But the workshop itself was brilliant, and I got a massive amount from it, and I felt really energized from it. So that was really I think like kind of the build up for that. If I were to assess my week, is that I spend a lot of time reviewing my performance and trying things and experimenting and looking at productivity and that type of thing. And this week hasn't been an overly productive week leading up to the workshop. And then after the workshop, feeling re-energized and motivated to tackle some of this stuff. I did my review, which I do every Sunday morning, looking at what I'm going to do. And I've tried to kind of ramp things up now, looking forward for next week, and try, not necessarily, I say ramp things up, that makes me think I'm doing more, but just try to be smarter with how I use my time. And kind of looking forward to see how I get on this week. So I would say that was the main part of my week, kind of realizing those inefficiencies and things that weren't working for me. And I'm excited now to try and put them in place. So it's probably really dry and boring for most people than even you, but I thought that's the reality of what my week has been like. On a probably slightly more interesting side of it is that over the last maybe like 6-8 weeks or so now, I've been trying to get back on my weight, because we talked about weight. Was that on our intermittent fasting one? I think we actually divulged our weight as well. Yeah. So I actually went up to 93.5 kilos, just short of, and I'm now 90.2. So I've lost 3 kilos and change, so probably about 6-7 pounds, over 6 pounds anyway, because of my strict kind of eating regime that I'm on. So that's been a big change for me. It's not this week. I've been doing it for a couple of weeks now, but I'm really feeling the benefits of it, both like kind of from an energy perspective, feeling great, and just actually seeing the weight come off. So that's been a real highlight for me.
So because that's something that we spoke about intermittent fasting, and I've still been stuck at this weight, and I don't want to say stuck at this weight. It's not a bad thing I don't gain weight, but I really do need to lose weight, and it's just been something I've been terrible. I've been weak, and I haven't been consistent with what I've been doing. Have you been? So you haven't been fasting consistently then?
No, I've been doing. I mean, so I used to do the 24-hour fast like very regularly, at least once a week, maybe sometimes a couple of times a week. I think, as I mentioned on there. But what I've been doing now is I picked up this thing. So this will be an interesting thing to kind of pass over to you. That I read that working out shouldn't be seen. Working out isn't a weight loss tool. Nutrition is. Workout is a well-being tool. And I was like, I've never heard anyone say that. And, does working out lose weight? Yes, it does. But the point being is that if weight loss is your goal, which I know is something that you've thought about and looked at for a long time, the nutrition should be where all of your focus lies. And from the working outside of it, that's a way to feel good about yourself and be healthy. And I thought that's a really healthy, balanced way of looking at it overall. Whilst I tend to be someone where I could kind of eat what I want because I love food, and I'll just smash it in the gym and kind of get rid of it. And it's probably not the healthiest way to respect your body and, over the long term. Again, if you're a teenager, 20s, you can get away with that stuff, no problem. But, at my age and, in your age as well, Sean, as we know, it gets harder, right? So nutrition is where you get all your gains. So I've just gone I've gone a militant, I've been as I call my monk mode. I go into my monk mode. I've got my set rules on my diet, or what I can and can't do. I'm comfortable with it. And it's not like don't eat bread. Oh, but I really want to eat bread. I was educated as to why I don't want to consume these things. And the information I read, the education I kind of got from that, really, I don't want to touch that stuff. I really feel like that. And I don't feel like I'm missing out. I feel like I'm growing and benefiting from not doing that stuff. And the stuff I'm eating is fine. I don't feel like I'm really weak or anything like that. I'm still weight training and feeling great from that front. So it's just working for me, and it's just really consistent, dialed in. So to the extent that the workshop, this will make you laugh, food is provided, but because of COVID, the restaurant was closed. So they said, okay, which sandwich do you want? And I was like, look, I'm not eating bread. And you have I think flapjacks and stuff with it, which again, previous Hugh would have been like, I'll just, I'll nail that. That's absolutely fine. There's nothing massively unhealthy about that. But it crosses over on some of my rule sets. So it's I can't eat that. So I was debating taking a microwave with me so I could reheat a meal to a hotel room. But what I ended up doing,
microwave. Whoa, stop. So you were going to take. Did you seriously thought about taking a microwave?
100%. Yeah, I was going to take one.
Can you hold your hands up to tell me how big the microwave you were thinking about taking was?
It's bigger than the lap. I can't fit into the frame, but
okay,
it's bigger than this frame.
You were going to be at the checkout, the check-in area, with your wallet in one hand and a microwave in the other arm.
Yeah. But you'll be pleased to hear that I didn't do that, and I ended up just taking the more sensible, reasonable option, which was just to take some cold food with me. So I had some boiled eggs and tinned fish, almonds, and fruit, and again, just to kind of get me through that the lunchtime.
It sounds I'd really already sustainable, mate. It really does.
Are you taking a piss? Are you? So this for me was just a day getting through it, because there was a saying that 99% is hard, 100% is easy.
Yeah.
So if I allow myself that, okay, just for ease, I'm just going to break it and do bread, then that's when everything kind of falls downhill. So I went to a workshop. I left the whole group to go to my room to grab my eggs and fish and everything. I ate that up there because it stinks and it's antisocial. Then I went down. Then we went out for dinner that night. I had the cleanest thing I could find on the menu. It was chicken and veg. When everyone else is drinking, eating desserts, no. There was a fight night last night with my friends. So there's 4 of us watching the fight night. So watching sport with your buddies. They had pizza, crisps, didn't touch anything. Didn't touch any of it. And they were like, are you sure you don't want this stuff? And you know me, I've got an appetite. I love to eat, but I didn't want to, need to, or anything. And I feel great from it, mate. So it's real progress for me, because it's not I hate myself. I really feel deprived and I feel weak. No, it's just I'm nice, sustainable, losing about 0.4 of a kilo a week, which is, half a percent of my body weight each week, which is what I'm looking for. I'm just a real mild deficit, that I barely feel, and it's just taking the fat off slowly whilst I'm maintaining or hopefully growing a bit of muscle at the same time. So yeah, mate, I'm really enjoying it and really pleased with how it's going.
You'll like what I had for dinner last night. Then you'll really like what I had for dinner last night. So we were out at a caravan site last night, and we didn't want to go out to a restaurant because the COVID thing's going ape shit right now. So we didn't want to necessarily go out in public, but we wanted to get a nice meal, and there was an Italian restaurant in the area. And I ended up having, so we ordered, my wife and I, we ordered starters. We had olives and assorted
Nice.
breads with olive oil and balsamic vinegar.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And then Nick got it was like a ravioli and like a tomato sauce with a side of garlic bread, but it was like from an Italian restaurant, and it looked like pizza.
Yeah,
which is incredible. And
I know exactly what you mean, and it's delicious, isn't it?
I had half of that because I wanted a side to go with my main, and I thought, what would be better to go with a pizza than a pizza without tomato sauce? So I had a Italian spicy pepperoni roast pepper garlic pizza from this proper Italian restaurant, and it was incredible. And I justified that because I played golf yesterday, so I would have walked, and it was hard going. It was raining and windy. I think it was 8 or 9 miles I did up and down the hills in Gloucestershire. So I think calorie wise, I probably actually wasn't far from break even because I didn't really eat much leading up to that. So I probably was even on the course with a calorie deficit. But it's interesting. You talked about your, carbs, and I've never felt that way about carbs as such. When I lost the lion's share of my weight, I was eating a shit ton of carbs.
But yeah, I haven't mentioned carbs. I just said bread.
Oh, okay. Well, bread. I guess no.
Bread's one of the things.
Bread is probably where I had to level it out. It was a lot of pastas, a lot of beans, like baked beans, which are carbohydrate but also protein. But it was mainly what I found was if I was having something that was highly sugary or processed, I was eating really inefficient food for sustainability.
Yeah.
And right now, I don't know what it is. I think I have an active lifestyle. I think I probably walk more than most since I play 2 rounds of golf a week on average. So I'm walking without walking the dog 14, 15 miles a week before even walking the dog. And I go out for 4 walks every day. And my wife and I will do 2 walks a week that are like 3-4 miles in the evening. So I'm doing probably the better part of 25 miles a week on foot. So not just like walking up and down the stairs. I'm talking like cardiovascular, movement. But I've been at this weight eating whatever I want for the last, I think, since we last worked together, I've been sort of hovering at this weight, give or take 5 pounds here and there. But when you're as big as me, so I don't know how many kilos I am. I'm 21 stone. So whatever that is in kilos.
So what do you think is I'm going to work that out, but what do you think is the number one thing that's potentially preventing you from losing weight? Again, this is saying that to not put words in your mouth, so correct me, but it sounds like that is a goal. It was something that you would like. Your aim would be to lose weight, perhaps. Is that what you're saying, or maybe not?
Yeah, no, it is an aim. I need to lose weight because of my joints. There's going to be a point where physically it's going to
make a difference.
And I think I said this before. I'm at a point where I feel like now is a good window for me. I feel like these next 5 to 6 years are my last window to get into a decent physical state. I think after the next 5 to 6 years, it's going to get exponentially harder because I feel still quite good. I still feel fit. I could. If you asked me to do the 3 Peaks challenge now, it would be hard, but I can do it. So for a 21 stone guy, I think I'm probably in the top 5th percentile of, people that with my level of, I guess, weight, I can move around in that top 5th percentile. So I want to take advantage of, my cardiovascular health, my current fitness level, but I want to take it to that next level. And I think when I take a look at where my downfall is, there's one area that's always killed me is quick and easy snacks. It's not necessarily the volume of food; it's the quality of the food that I'm eating. But also, I've slept better than I've ever slept before in the last 7 or 8 months, and part of it is with Nick coming home. She walks the dog in the morning, and I walk the dog in the evening, so I don't have to get up. And I am a night person by nature.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
My circadian rhythm is, I don't know if that's the right term, but my circadian rhythm, if that is the right thing, is go to bed at midnight. I wake up at 7. That's like my natural sleep time. I don't necessarily fall asleep at 12, but I'm in bed at 12. That's the pattern I stick to, weekends, weekdays, everything. And because of that, we eat at 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. And I find I'm almost mindlessly snacking at 11 when I do the dishes before I go to bed. I clean the kitchen. That's sort of my routine. I listen to a podcast or something and I go to bed. And half the time I'll have something in my mouth and I can't remember grabbing it.
Really?
I'll be like eating like a granola bar. And I'm like, when the fuck did I grab this? So what kills me is it's that snacking and it's that quick and easy food. Whereas I would lose weight. I know I would lose weight if I stopped eating after dinner at about 6 o'clock. And if I did that, that would cover the majority of my issues right there. And if I just did 2 meals of whatever I wanted, because I don't generally eat poorly with the food choices I make. I find the food choices I make are things that make me feel good. They're not always the healthiest, but like the most unhealthy thing I'll have is like a wrap. And in the wrap, I'll put mayonnaise, which isn't great for me. And I'll put just a little bit of cheese, but I'll put peppers, I'll put lettuce, I'll put cucumbers, I'll put tomatoes, and I'll shred carrots and I'll fill it up with a lot of veg.
Yeah.
Or I'll do rice and beans. I'll take baked beans, rice, some hot sauce. I'm good with that. And that'll keep me going. If I do eat crisps, it'll be like the little 100-calorie, they're not dense, but if I do eat snacks, I do make sure the calories are low, but those are the things that are killing me. So it's a matter of not snacking, eating when I'm hungry to start the day. Sometimes I have toast with breakfast and I'm not hungry. I think I need to train myself to only eat when I'm hungry. And I need to find a way to not snack in the evening. And I think some of that comes down to maybe stress or anxiety as well. So it's those are my weak points. And I know where I need to focus on it. I've been successful. I dieted for like 4 or 5 years before. And I think when I lost my weight to get to where I'm at a healthy functional point, I think I kind of burned myself out a bit doing that before. So I'm trying to find a system where I can lose weight and not have to feel like I'm putting in a lot of work. And that doesn't sound. Yeah.
No, you're right, mate. You're right, because consistency, longevity, sustainability is the most important thing. There's no point in doing, the diet word as well is a bit of a stigma attached to it. It's really nutrition that we're talking about, and whatever if you're not prepared to do it for the rest of your life, then argument that you maybe shouldn't be doing it. Now, in reality, am I never going to eat pizza and bread and stuff like that? So that comes under the processed food thing, which I am avoiding processed food at the moment. Yeah. I'm just trying to take that out of my diet. I'm taking out processed food. I'm taking out factory farmed meat products, so animal products. Sorry, so that includes caged hens, factory farmed animals, and factory farmed dairy products, and factory fats. So I'm not having anything that's been made from palm oil, canola oil, seed oils, no vegetable fats whatsoever. And if you eradicate that, for me, it actually takes out quite a lot. And you've got to kind of go back to basics and have, free range organic meat, eggs. You can have, cheese, yogurts. I'm having like dark chocolate, which you could argue is processed because it has I have 85%. So I have like the diet. That's like my treat. Yeah, I have, like for me, like a banana and a couple of, I just have depending on which one it is, a lint, it's a row. If it's green and blacks, it will be like 2 rows because they're smaller. And that's like my kind of little dessert thing. And I really enjoy that. And the stuff, because I've studied nutrition on this course I'm on, I've studied sleep as well as another thing. So I don't want to bring something to the table for you because it may or might not help. It helped me. And a couple of things that help sleep was the first one is screen time, to be really mindful of that. So to turn off all screens at least an hour before you go to bed, which is really difficult to do for people that aren't aware of it. Like, just first and foremost, you're watching TV, you're on a laptop or tablet or your phone. So if you're turning all those off, and your other half's in bed as well, like, what do you do with yourself? It's like reading a book, or, you know, me and Lou have gone to puzzles as well. We do evening walks, puzzles when we talk, and then we go to bed for that hour, at least an hour. We turn it off. Look, I'll always enjoy watching films, and we got Netflix, we got Amazon Prime, we watch TV, but I just try and give myself that time before. The other one, which is more related to our point on nutrition, is to make sure that you're giving at least a 2-hour window without eating anything before bed. Ideally, it should be 4 hours. And the longer you leave that, the better for your body and the sleep it is. So if you're eating within, you know, an hour before going to bed, then do you know about the lymphatic system, where it cleans out the toxins from your body?
Yeah, I read about. Isn't this this kind of goes back to the fasting element, where? Sorry, go ahead.
It does. Yeah, you're spot on, mate. So you've got a lymphatic system for your body, which cleans out like the toxins in your body. There's the GLYM with a G, glymphatic system for your brain, and it works in a very similar way. And if you have food in your body before you go to bed, when you're lying in bed, your body, your brain and your body are having to work on the digestive system when it's not using, it's not clearing out the GLYM from your brain, which enables you to kind of rest and restore. You know, the stats, mate, are shocking. If you watch this back, you'll see me like rub my chin as soon as you say it, because as a friend, I'd be concerned the fact you're going to bed at 12, meaning if you're waking up at 7, you aren't getting 7 hours sleep. You're getting probably closer to 6. So if you're having between 6 to 7 hours of sleep consistently, you double your risk of cancer. That stat alone was like, fuck. So, and people think, if again, the stat that followed up with that, well, I don't need 8 hours sleep. I said, the likelihood is that you're wrong on that, because the likelihood of you're the type of person that only needs 5 or 6 hours sleep is 1 in 12,000, which is the same as being struck by lightning. And if you round one at the ratio of 1 in 1,000 to the nearest integer, it equals 0. So the chances are it is 0 that you need 4 or 5 hours sleep, and that you need to be like almost everyone and get back to having 8 hours sleep. To get 8 hours sleep, at least, you need to be in bed for at least 9 hours. So, and then it comes backwards. So if you get up at 7, for example, again, this is just what I was taught and what I've implemented in my life. So I'm just going to use yours as an example. So 7 o'clock is when I get up, set the alarm. You got to, and I need 8 hours sleep. So I need to be in bed for 9 hours. So that means you being in bed by 10 o'clock to get up for 7 to allow yourself to fall asleep at around 11. Then you have to get off screens by 9 p.m. And then you need to have stopped eating if you've gone at 10, no later than 8, but ideally pushing that on to 6, which is kind of in line to what you're doing, so snacking it. So I've kind of implemented these now for a few months. I've noticed an amazing difference to my, you know, well-being and health and feeling and everything. And again, I'm just going off the research that I've read. I'm trying. It's all an experiment, right? Life is an experiment, and it works for me. It won't work for everyone, and I enjoy playing around with this type of stuff as well. But yeah, what are your thoughts, mate? Is it something you know, how realistic would that feel for you? Would that kind of like creep you out for even thinking about that, or what things would like you be interested in maybe experimenting? Or
I don't agree with everything you've said, because there's just as much data out there on sleep that says you don't need 8 hours of sleep. However, I think we need to put into context my routine and my patterns. So what I understand, and we're both not doctors, so it's an interesting debate to have. But what I understand, the most important thing is, and I have done a lot of reading on this, because for a while I was having sleep anxiety. So I was reading a lot about how to sleep.
yeah,
I think I sleep really well. I feel really rested. I'm never yawning during the day. I never feel like I need a nap. The only time I'm tired, so I am tired. I did not sleep well this weekend. I was in the caravan, and I had drinks, and we had a full meal. So yeah, I was, when I'm out of my patterns so from a dietary standpoint, I agree with you. Whenever I eat at night, I feel like shit and I don't sleep well. Now that doesn't always happen, or if I have a small snack, I can get away with it. Um, However, I think for me, what I've read and what I understand, the most important thing is patterns, and making sure you're staying consistent with your patterns on when you go to
absolutely.
bed and when you wake up. And I wake up when I don't set an alarm every day. and I fall asleep at a fairly
That's good.
comfortable time. So I lay down. I am on screens more than I should be. Part of it is this hobby. You know, the time that I do my editing is from 10 to midnight, but
Okay.
that's when my brain is popping. That's when, you know, my wife won't talk to me after 10 o'clock. So how I feel at 7 in the morning is how she feels at 10 at night. So Nick will
Yeah.
try to have a conversation with me at 7 in the morning, and I would just pretty much, yeah, whatever you want. I'm happy with that. Even if she's asking me a question. So what do you think about
I've
the
seen
weather
you that
tomorrow?
early.
Yeah. What do you think about, you know, going out with the weather tomorrow? Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's you know, I can't. And if I ask Nick a question, oh, you know, where do you want to play golf next week? I'm not going to even look at. I'll talk to you tomorrow about that. So that's where my brain is still going. And what ends up happening is I get to a point at about midnight where I start feeling tired. So I will agree that the screen's on too late. But when I go to bed, and there's a development in my sleep pattern or my sleep routine that I will tell you at the end of this that I have added that's been an amazing tool. I go upstairs, I lay down, and the only time I'll use my phone is if I have anxiety in the night. So I'll put on. I'll have to show you the channels I've been watching because I put on a few channels that just really just melt my anxiety away, and I end up falling right asleep.
Is this the train track? The train?
No, this is a different one. This is a different one. I'll share it with you on this broadcast because
Yeah.
we're making good time. And I sleep really well. I wake up. I wake up at 7, but I probably get out of bed at 8 most days. Or if I need to sleep more, 8:30.
Oh,
I don't have to
you're
sleep.
in bed for an hour, like kind of
It depends.
snoozing, like.
Yeah, snoozing. Just I wake up when I'm like, yeah, I've had enough. You know, when I feel like I'm done sleeping.
Yeah.
So I don't set an alarm. I don't have to. I can start work whenever I want. You know, generally 10 is the latest I can start. I never start later than 8:30. I'm almost always out of bed at 8. So
Yeah.
I would estimate I'm getting 6.5 to 7.5 hours of sleep a night. Not every night's going to be a great night's sleep. You know, sometimes I'm a bit warm or there's some noise outside or whatever, but generally I sleep very well. And I've added to my arsenal, which I can't believe how transformative this has been. Nick recently got a weighted blanket, and
I've heard
he had
about
read
this.
about
Yeah.
that for anxiety. And it was only like 35 quid, and I thought, I'll give it a go. And I got a weighted blanket. Just no problem. Just had it, put it on the bed. And since I've had the weighted blanket, I've slept pretty much from close my eyes until the morning without being disturbed. I mean, I've never slept so heavily since I've had the weighted blanket. I'm not saying this is somebody who believed in it. I tried Nick's and it was comfortable. And I wasn't going after a blanket to ease anxiety or sleep anxiety or to help me fall asleep. It was just a comfortable blanket. And since I've had this over the last month, I've been dead to the world as soon as I fall asleep. You know, with the exception, I have my anxiety nights, probably once, twice a month. I can't sleep, but I sleep really well. I feel like I wake up refreshed in the morning. I feel ready to take on the world. Cup of coffee at 8. You know, I just love that ritual, that routine of getting the coffee in me. It gives me that sort of endorphin rush when I have that cup of coffee in the morning, and I'm sharp by once 8 o'clock rolls around, I'm sharp and I'm ready to go. So I don't feel like sleep is an issue. Um, what I do think is an issue though, and this is where I am conscious. I eat at 6, so that means by the time I'm going to bed or I'm hungry, it's 5 or 6 hours later, and that's kind of in the pattern of, you know, my eating pattern: breakfast, lunch, dinner. I don't always eat breakfast. I'll do fast days. So I think for me, what I found is effective if I do the dishes and I clean up, let's say it's 7 o'clock, those are the nights I don't even think about snacking. It's when I'm in the kitchen and I'm there for an extended period of time. That's when I tend to grab the snacks. And as a fact, once I have a snack, I'll just be like, oh fuck it, I'm already, you know, I've already crossed into sin territory. Let's go ahead and have another whatever. And that's where I tend to let myself down. But I'm not eating to the point that um I'm not overeating because I'm not gaining any weight, but I'm also not losing any weight.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So I sorry, I just sort of went on there for a while, but I wanted to give you some context. I don't necessarily agree that you have to have 8 hours. I
So,
agree that
mm,
food is an issue late, and
yeah.
I feel like I know I sleep really well every night.
So let me rebuttal those points. So you does everyone need 8 hours? No, but most people do, and it you can get by and feel okay on 7.5 or 7.25. But if there are people that can do that, and there are people that genuinely can sleep on 4 or 5 and they're absolutely fine medically, but the vast majority of people don't. And one of the problems with that is that when you are sleep deprived, you are less able to tell that you are sleep deprived. So the fact that people say, well, I wake up, feel fine, you're going to. It's like being hungover. If you drink all the time, like, oh, it's not that bad. It's because you don't notice what being sober's like. So until you have a 10-hour sleep, you're 10 hours in bed, you don't know what that feels like anymore. So there is a bias towards that because it's a routine for you. So I'm not suggesting that therefore, Sean, you are tired and you need more. But what I'm suggesting is that the sheer fact that if you are deprived, you would know that less than someone that was anyway. So you'd need, and the way to rebuttal that is to give yourself extra time and see if there is a difference or if there isn't. The other
I
point
have
that
all
you
the time I
made,
want, though. I can sleep 9 hours if I wanted to from 12. I don't have to wake up till 9:30.
yeah, and I think that's great. The fact that you don't have an alarm is a real gift. I have the same thing, and it might be one of the most important things in my overall health. I'd say full stop, because on the Friday, I went for a workout in the morning prior to the workshop because I was going to be sat on my ass all day. So I set an alarm for the first time, and I talked to a few people about it, joking about, I set an alarm today. Like, what do you mean don't you do that every? I was like, no, I never set an alarm. I get up when I'm ready to get up, and then I'm kind of rested enough, and I'm knowing that I'm very fortunate enough to do that. But I have my own business and I work from home. Your point on the food before was, you brought up a real good point. I was making the point in general that pulling this towards dinner, like people, I'm saying it as someone. Let me make this clear as well. Just because I'm on it, I've been on it in the last couple of months. And it's really made a difference to my life. Doesn't mean like I haven't lived like this way for the whole rest of it. And it's not to suggest that I'm, not going to mess up and do things differently in the future either. It's just I'm trying, just trying to optimize myself and try things out. So it's eating a meal a couple hours before, because I used to do that when I used to train in the grappling in particular. I'd come back at like sometimes 11 o'clock, and I'd have my meal, get ready for 11:30. I'd be in bed at 12. It's like I didn't realize what I was putting my body under additional stress and not allowing myself to rest fully with that. So when you were saying the snacks, I don't know what that constitutes, but your body is going to be working because it could have been resting, so it is having to digest it. But depending on what it is and how much it has to work would depend. So it doesn't sound like it's as bad as the effects might be as having a full meal. But so that's one thing to consider.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it depends. Just to jump in, it depends, because there's nights where I'm not a stress eater or a binge eater. But there's times where if I've had a few drinks earlier that day and I'm stressed about something, so this will be maybe once a month, where I'll instead of just having like a granola bar, or usually it's like some raisins or a piece of fruit, or what I'll do is I'll get, I guess the best worst, sorry, how do I word this? The most offensive, least offensive item, does that make sense?
Most offensive, least offensive, yeah,
would be 2 pieces of cheese and 2 crackers or something like that. So
yeah,
something that's full on, but not like,
got a bit of
like
fat,
like,
a bit of
I'm not like, hunking half a piece of cheese and shoving it in my face.
I know what you mean.
I have that in my wheelhouse to just sort of have a mini binge.
Yeah.
And what I will do when I'm feeling extra naughty, saying fuck it, and I'm not consciously doing that, is I'll have like a sandwich at like 11 at night. And it's like, if I'm making a sandwich, I'm going all out. It's like, tablespoon of mayo, like it's squirting out the sides and I'm licking it. It's like, it's pretty full on. And that's maybe once a month, once every other month, I'll punish myself, and I'll feel like I'll wake up in the middle of the night, like I'll fall asleep and I'll wake up and my heart's racing. And those are the nights that I put on something to sort of distract myself, because I'll feel it. I'll be laying down and I'll just feel it up against my side going ka-ding, 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 ka-ding. And I can't get my mind off of that. I'm not worried, I'm not stressed about it, but at the same time,
You're not resting. You're not like at
I'm
ease.
not.
Yeah.
No, it's making me anxious. It's not making.
Yeah, I know
me
what you mean.
I'm not having a panic attack. I'm not freaking out. I could.
I know exactly what you mean.
So those are the times where and I 100% agree. When I make my last bite of food at 7 o'clock, that's when I have my best night's sleep. But that's also when I see weight loss. So that's a very critical period for me, because that's when I have low quality, waste of my time food that offers no value whatsoever. And even if I do eat something at the end of the snack, I will ask myself, what value did I get out of that? Nothing. I've got
It's
nothing out of
habitual.
that.
Yeah, it's a habit. You're feeding a habit.
So that's what I need to, because I know as well as anybody how to lose weight. I've done it. I've lost a shit ton of weight. So I know what
It's
it
only
takes.
half of the story, though, isn't it?
It's
Sean, why is that making money isn't that much of a rocket science either? But why isn't everyone walking around rich and with six packs?
Yeah.
I'm stating these things here, and I've still got a bit of a fat around my belly I'm trying to lose. What if I know everything? Why am I sat? Because I'm human and I'm fallible, and society sets us up to, unfortunately, like I mentioned that quote a couple of weeks back, that there's no measure of health to be profoundly sick, to be well in a profoundly sick society. Yeah. So, well, I eat healthier than most people. Well, that doesn't mean shit if the whole world is eating really poorly. So yeah, it's like society and the public and social media and stuff like that. It doesn't really promote the things you arguably should or be doing, or the things that are more healthy. So
I think it comes down to, I think everybody knows what's healthy for them to a certain degree. I'm very cautious about, some of the, they're
I disagree on that point, by the way. I don't think people do know. I think there's only a small proportion. I think there's people that are really, like, the one study that kind of highlighted that was not the one study. It was the fact that this was based in the US as well. So it's not a complete transfer to the UK, but I think that the trends are somewhat similar. Didn't have the numbers for the UK, but the food industry as a whole spent $12 billion on science. And this was led by, like privately led. So you've got companies like, non-healthy, like a tobacco company running research on tobacco, saying it's not actually that bad for you. Whilst the independent body, it was like the United States Health Service, whatever it was, I can't remember what the body was, but that only spends $1 billion. So there's 12 times as much, in inverted commas, junk science out there as there is to, non-biased. We're just looking legitimately for the healthiest things. So the world is up against it. You're constant. That's what people say. Oh, I hear all these things, and there is contradictory science, but there are companies and private organizations that are incentivized to make the science look better than what it actually is. And it's like, for a great example that I used was Smucker's jam. And the guy that was teaching me was just like, he's like the calmest, nicest person on the planet. And he was getting really enraged by it, because he was suggesting that ingredients are there to try and highlight to the consumer. So and you will then therefore responsible for knowing what goes into the product, and you can choose whether or not to get it or not. And the item which is most prevalent goes at the top. And then if it's less and less prevalent, it goes down. And they had strawberries or whatever it is, raspberries, whatever their fruit is number one, meaning it's like, oh, it's healthy, it's got fruit in it. And yet number two would be, corn syrup. And then 3 would be like sucrose, and 4 would be sugar. So but however, it's just there are like over 60 different forms of sugar. So what someone decided to do within that organization was to break the products down and have different elements and different strands of essentially sugar sweetener, which is damaging to us, to a degree which reduced the overall percentage of that ingredient, meaning it was below strawberries, so it was deemed more healthy. And that's the type of thing we're up against, unfortunately. So yeah, I do feel like, from what I've read, that it's quite the opposite. I think we're really up against it, and it's not our fault. It's like society's working against us, and people are incentivized and paid to try and manipulate their way to make things look not as bad as they, in theory are. So Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge. I think the society's got a long way to go with regards to nutrition, and I'm feeling that myself, and I've still got work to do.
I think I agree with what you're saying, with the caveat that in that example, if you were to explain to people what the fruit actually entailed, or what the format of the fruit, how they were eating or imbibing that fruit, quantifying the levels of sugar that they're taking as opposed to, let's say, just straight up sucrose. I think people understand the elements of things that are bad for them and the elements of things that are good for them. Where I see it slightly differently is I don't think people understand to what degree they're taking these items in. I think it's actually quite similar to what you're
Yeah,
saying.
I
So
agree.
one of the examples, and this is one of the shows I actually really quite liked watching because I felt like it helped me put food into context, was what was the show? It was Super Size versus Super Skinny.
This is when you had like a very large person would take on a
Yeah,
diet of like a not anorexic, but someone was very like underweight, and vice
yeah,
versa. The underweight person
yeah,
would eat. Yeah,
yeah. Like the underweight person, like their lunch would consist of 3 peanuts and a celery stalk, and then the fat person's diet would be like, so at lunch I'd have 4 eggs and then a whole bottle of ketchup, probably 3 tins of beans, and then
2 liter bottle of soda and type of
yeah,
thing. Yeah,
just going nuts with it. And what fascinated me about that show, it really got me rethinking about how to eat, because the way they put the show into context, as far as the skinny person, I felt like it was unfair to them because they would live in this house and at breakfast, lunch, and dinner they would swap each other's meals. And being a fat guy myself, I know that those fat people didn't sit down and just decide to slam a 6,000 calorie meal at lunch. They probably grazed over the course of a 4 hour period from like 10 to 2, and didn't just sit down with 3 plates full of food. But what I found was, though, people don't necessarily realize when they're eating crackers and cheese, for example, how many calories they're taking in with crackers and cheese. I'm the worst example. I'm not ignorant. I'm just smashing it, knowing what I'm doing to myself. I know that cracker and cheese is probably 150 calories, for 2 bites. So I'm smashing 300 calories in 4 bites of whatever it is before I go to bed, which is, I could eat a McDonald's double cheeseburger and in some ways be better off calorie wise than that cracker and cheese. And people don't necessarily quantify calories to what they're eating. And this is where we talk about efficiency in food. If you're eating highly processed, highly easy to eat food, you're getting low return as far as satiation and low
nutrient.
return versus volume.
Yeah,
That's why
absolutely.
you can, when you look at apples, apples, the sugar in apples or the sugar in oranges, there's a lot of sugar in those, but I think the sugar in fruit is broken. You have fiber in that fruit. Um, there's a lot more benefits to eating fruit, and you can't eat as many apples as you could, let's say, drink a half a bottle of apple juice. So it's how you take that food in and how it makes you feel. Crackers and cheese is such a luxury item, it and that's where I think people are a bit ignorant. Okay, I didn't realize how many calories I had when I ate those 6 Oreos. They went down like nothing. I didn't realize that was 600 calories. That sort of thing.
I totally agree with everything you said there, mate. I want to take this onto another level because I'll challenge you. Don't eat anything with any vegetable oils in it, and you'll struggle. Don't eat anything with like palm or anything that was invented oil perspective wise
Yeah.
within the last 100 years. So you can
Olive?
basically have olive oil. So that's natural. That's been going for thousands of years.
Rapeseed oil?
No.
That's
So
canola oil,
again,
isn't it?
that's rapeseed, canola, no seed oil, no vegetable oil, because they're very high in omega-6s, which creates an imbalance. And you need a roughly 1-to-1 balance of omega-3 and 6. You need both. So omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. So when you have joints issues or tissue damage, you need omega-3s to kind of repair that and kind of bring down the inflammation. Omega-6 is to ignite inflammation. It's an inflammatory. So you need both, because it's not like you only need to be reducing. No, sometimes it is good to have inflammation. So you need a healthy balance of both. However, in vegetable oils, like olive oil, if you have a look at the balance, it's a much more reasonable balance. Whilst vegetable oils have like one omega-3 up to, in some cases, 16 omega-6s, and now your body is highly inflamed. You add sugar to the mix, which is a toxin. Flour which again is so highly processed nowadays. Like the flour that we use in the modern world, you try and eradicate that from your diet, mate. It's not easy. Like you've got to go some ways to get that out of your diet. But again, flour has been linked with it's like, is flour a food or a drug? Someone said. And there's something within flour which actually triggers a dopamine response. So when people are eating pizza, what is it that you love about pizza? It's actually the dough, because there's a craving within that, and you get like a drug like reaction to it. Like with pizza, I'd smash pizza in any, I thoroughly enjoy eating pizza. It's like right up there as one of the best meals for me. Especially if I was really going to let loose, pizza would be right up there. And yeah, these things kind of compound and add up. And then you said like the quantity side of it as well. Like then people aren't really aware of what like a slice of pizza or half a pizza, what that equates to versus what they're doing as well. And these things just really do add up. And then you have a Coke on top of that, like a full fat Coke or whatever, and you're getting
like drink Coke. God.
I don't touch it. But then I want to just track back to something you said, because again, I'm really conscious. I don't want to be coming across as like holier than thou, because I'm truly not. But
too late, mate. It's too late.
Maybe it is, but I've not been drinking now for, I think it's something like 58. I've come up to 2 months. So my goal was to get to 100 days no drinking, because I was so sick. That's largely what I put weight on for, because I let loose in August. I was drinking and socializing massively, and your snacks were exactly mine. So my like, I'm taking it easy on the snack front, was to nick loose crackers and put some cheese on it, a couple of slices of cheese on them, like the thin strips of cheese on it. And that would be like, I'm taking it steady. Although I'm clocking in probably 300-400 calories with that. No questions about that. And if I was like, screw it, I feel I've got the munchies, and I'm getting a sarnie, and it's like butter, it's like get it all in, and I'm ramming it in, and I love it. Or maybe toast or something. So bread, cheese, butter, like I just really ham it up. But it made me laugh when you said that, because that was like the knock on. So then I wasn't sleeping as well. The alcohol, which is terrible for sleep as well. It helps you believe you go to sleep, but actually you're not sleeping. You don't sleep very well. But then the next day, it's not just that for me, Sean. I don't know if this is for you, but if I drunk, then the next day I'm just like, oh, I want pizza. I want like fatty, cheesy. I just want those type of foods. And then that cycle will be broken. So the thing I said early on, like the 99% hard, 100% easy. The when I'm like, oh, I don't eat that now, it's made everything else easier, because I'm like, I just don't eat that. But whilst if I allowed myself to, when I feel like it, and to treat myself, then I'm the type of personality, like I'm a glutton inside. I've got the fat boy in me without a doubt, and I can let loose in that. So it's strange in a way, mate. It's been liberating for me to deny those things, and I've now created the habit enough that I feel I'm really happy with where it's at. I don't want to change. I'm scared to change it, to the extent I would take a fucking microwave to a hotel, because I was worried I'm going to have bread, which will mean, oh, I've broken that. Then we would have gone for a meal. I'd be like, fuck it, I'll go for burger and chips, because that's my faithful. And then, are you having a drink? Oh, I'll have a pint as well, because I want to be social. I don't want to let you feel like, so that's how it starts for me. Like you just need one to break, and I'm done. So, I just wanted to put that out there, because the reason that I'm doing this and making a conscious effort is because I've been really unhappy with that element of where I've been at. And I've really felt the negative lag on that. And because of implementing these changes, I have personally found, a lot of benefit, and I'm really happy with it. So, and I believe strongly it's each to their own, and, people can make their own decisions, but I can't help but feel from what I've been saying, there's just so much I don't know. And I'm really spending the time and effort to learn about this stuff. So I think the general public are, they're inadvertently, they're ignorant to it, that no one's educated them on it. It's a tough spot.
Where do you, I've asked you this before, and it's a difficult question to answer, because some of the stuff you're talking about, I think we would agree, is somewhat settled science. And there's stuff that I think is generally good for you, no matter what happens with what science comes out with moving forward. Because there's that whole argument: eggs are good, eggs are bad, eggs are good, eggs are bad. And
eggs are good.
like,
eggs are good.
I love eggs, and I will agree with that, and I'll stick to that no matter what they say about eggs. But when we look at some of those elements, so I was listening to Joe Rogan, for example. It was a really interesting interview with the singer of Tool. I don't know if you heard the band Tool.
Maynard James Keaton. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've not seen that podcast. Was it good?
I listened before we started. I was listening to it leading up to our show today. Fascinating guy, and he's got one of the most incredible rock voices ever. I don't know if you listened to Tool growing up.
Yeah, I did listen to Tool. I've not heard him speak much, but yeah, I like him.
He's an interesting guy.
Yeah,
but they were talking about, Joe Rogan was talking about CBD oil, which there's a lot of interesting evidence out there about CBD oil. And Joe Rogan, maybe to a greater degree, because I think there's some elements that when you do something that makes you feel good, and he's taking a lot of CBD. CBD is something that I believe is showing signs of promise, but I struggle to jump in with both feet on the benefits of something like CBD oil, because there's a lot of confirmation bias that he may be experiencing in that, in how it deals with inflammation. I don't necessarily believe that, but it is possible. And it may come out in 10 years that CBD oil has really fucked up a lot of people. We don't know. I don't believe that's the case, if you were to ask my opinion. But there's a lot of things that we did that have been contradicted over time as we've learned more.
Yeah.
At what point, from your perspective, and I want to be very clear, I'm not suggesting that you are being suckered into anything, because I largely agree what you're doing is healthy and correct. And I don't think anything you're doing is detrimental in any way. So I think you could make an argument that what Joe Rogan is doing is going to an all meat diet. You could make an argument that that could turn bad, but we just don't know yet. Again, I don't necessarily think that's the case, but that's an extreme. Where do you buy in, and where are you skeptical in these, in some of these points? So intermittent fasting, I believe, is probably a good idea to a degree. I'm not sure that 48 hours fasting is a good idea. I wouldn't be willing to try that yet, because I don't know the science is there yet on that.
Okay, so let's unpack all of that. The CBD oil thing. So okay, let's unpack all that as well. I think, like, as a human race, like how long we've been alive and how we've evolved, a very good metric is like if we just go back to the basics and you strip out all the new age shit, basically. So what could people eat 150 years ago? If you can't pronounce the name, you shouldn't be eating it. If it was created in a factory, probably isn't good for you. You should probably not eat that. Whether you're going down the vegetarian, vegan route, or whether you go down the meat route, it's just, you want to be doing it as with as minimal processing as possible. I think we can all agree on that, whichever way you kind of slide on it. So let's take a CBD oil. It's something I know little about. I've kind of, my knowledge will probably come from people like Joe. What I know is I've heard anecdotal evidence of people having massive success, especially with illnesses like epilepsy and seizures. People have, like, they've tried everything, and they weren't having any success from that, and within days of CBD oil, it's transformed them, and they no longer have epilepsy seizures. So I know it's a powerful thing, and it works in certain areas. With inflammation,
I've had anecdotal evidence myself. Sorry, just to quickly, because I want to catch you before you move on to unpack anything else. Kai, he was having anxiety issues really bad, like before he passed.
Yeah, I remember.
Awful anxiety issues, and for short, we put him on CBD oil, and the only thing that ever calmed him down was CBD oil.
Really?
It actually, so it wasn't long lasting. It was almost as if, like, we lost the balance that you need to find with it. And I don't believe it was confirmation bias on my part, because we tried a lot of things, and I was skeptical going into the CBD oil. And he would have anxiety and walk around into doors and, like, hit things and hide in the bathroom. And for about a month of giving him CBD oil, he would find more rest in the evening than not, substantially so, notably so. And there was nights where it was so. I have some anecdotal evidence that I believe CBD, there may be something to it, but I'm not convinced. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing that, mate. Kind of backing up my like point to a degree. I've also heard that people that take it and feel. I've heard people that take it for anxiety and it's done nothing, and I've heard some people that take it and they've noticed a difference. So I don't know where that stands. I've had it in, I think in London a couple of times where we've had like a bulletproof coffee and there was like you can get an extra bit with CBD. I was like, oh, I'll have that. Did it make any difference? I couldn't tell you. I've got no idea. I felt all right, but I was in London and I was enjoying myself. So I don't know. So I can't go on that. So your point was like, where do you stand on that? Could there be like long-term damage? I think it's a really important point because it's not been on the market long enough for us to truly know that. So where do you stand? Where do you do that? I think like I'm probably someone that I try to use common sense with it, and I'll listen to anecdotal evidence from multiple strains. I'll see what science is out, even though it's only short term, be it 6 weeks or 6 months, and this is what they found. And I think it's a case of experimentation and seeing how you feel with that, because a lot of these things, you've got the individual metric to that as well, because, I might enjoy nuts, but they might kill the next person, so nuts don't equal good. Nuts are nuts. They're not good, bad. They're, they have nutrients in them, and they have some aspects to it which will kill someone. So CBD, where's it stand? My gut feel is that I feel it's something that's probably a good thing for us overall. And I wouldn't be adverse to taking it based on what I've heard. And I looked into it, and from an anxiety perspective, and the price put me off immediately because I'm all about sustainability long term. And I looked at the bottle, I was like, what? It's how much? I was like, I'm not asked what? I was like, oh, so I'm paying a month. I was like, nah, I'll find it. I'll go for a run rather than do that. I'll go, there are other things I can do without kind of reliant on that. But, I know other people have had CBD rubs as well, because I was in grappling for a while and I took it very seriously. And I knew people that there's a lot of wear and tear on your joints and your body, and people that had these CBD rubs and they had some issues and it's supposedly cleared that up. So I've heard largely good things about it. What was your point after CBD, mate? I'm sorry.
So I think I didn't do a good job of asking the question. I was using those as
no, it was memory.
But those are examples of things that you have to a certain degree, as the uninitiated, the uneducated. And when I say uneducated, as a non-scientist, you have more training in dietary sciences than I do. I think you've done some education as far as fitness and health.
Yeah, not training, just spent time reading, educating, and learning from people, and people that put reports together for me that kind of condense it for me. I think training would be misleading and more than the truth.
You were certified to train, or you went through, maybe that was a CrossFit thing you were doing.
That was CrossFit, yeah.
So, because I've to a certain degree, I know quite a bit about losing weight as far as a specific way to lose weight. But I don't think I've spent the time looking at some of these other avenues to the same degree that you have. And I think the greater point was, we know there's benefits from this now. Joe Rogan, for example, is going on an all meat diet. Not that he's solely doing it; he's eating pasta at times.
I believe it's mostly meat, though, is it not, Sean? Just to interrupt that, because he said one described the last one that I saw with. It was with a guy that promotes eating organ meats as well. Another Italian name, Salatino or something like that. So he was saying that when people ask him, he said, "I eat mostly meat." So he states that he does eat other things, but it's mainly it's not to state it was a carnivore diet would be technically incorrect, because he does eat other stuff, but it's mostly meat.
But I think he eats other stuff when he goes off the diet, is what I understood. So he will go off the diet, but he'll go through stretches. So it's not like a permanent thing where he's going to eat nothing but meat, but he'll produce inflammation to help. He says, which I've no doubt he feels better about it. But when I look at a decision to commit to, he'll go a week or 2 weeks with eating nothing but meat. And when for me, it's a big leap to make such an extreme decision when science has changed so much, especially in the world of diet. There's things that we are going to know in 10 years' time, that some of the stuff that we're doing is going to be correct. Some of the other stuff that we're doing is going to be incorrect. And
absolutely.
The way my wife looks at it, and this is kind of how I understand it, is there's benefit. I think we all agree that sugar is probably bad. Processed food, some of those easy calories are bad, and the nutrition value and food with poor nutrition value is bad. And I think moderation is the number one thing I think that's going to be consistent over time, where you can eat pasta, you can eat ice cream, but you really need to not eat like a pig. You need a balance of everything. You need to stay active, and I think throughout history that is going to be the way forward. But at what point do you, let's say, not abandon that, but you move away from that and you go to a more extreme where I'm Jeff Bezos and I'm gonna eat 2 days out of every four or something like that. And for me, that's a big leap to make, because anything can change with science, and that's where I don't understand how people make those leaps without knowing.
So the fasting side of it, that was, I think, one of the things you mentioned. So when you were saying, I'm not sure that eating 2 days in 2 days is a healthy thing. I think it will depend on the individual, what they've done to that degree, and their mental well state. I believe that. What I do know is that there have been a countless number of humans, since humans have been alive, that have been forced into not eating for much more than 2 days. So we are built to withstand that and to hold it. And evolution is actually like during that time within its 2 to 3 days, that's where autophagy comes in. So there is actually a benefit to getting to that point. My statement isn't a blanket one where everyone can do it and everyone's fine, because I think that's irresponsible, and I don't think that's the case for everyone. I just think that if you're going down that average route again, Sean, the typical person, I think that people are far more capable of your body is capable of withstanding far more than people imagine. So I think fasting is a little different, because again, it's like was where logic dictates that, like, it must have been that way, because people go through that now, like, in like the hunter gatherers, it's not a straight, like, you're going to be eating they don't eat 3 meals a day. They go, they might go like a day or two without eating at times, and they're built to withstand that. It's just that in our society we're not, and we're conditioned to it, which creates another thing, and we get dependent on that. And then when you take that away, it's very difficult, and anxiety levels, you're not used to that, and it's it's something else. But your point on science coming through and being proving something is unhealthy for where it's an almost guarantee. Like, that's just how science works. It's about constantly proving what's wrong and or right, and backing that up. And I think it's just down to us to do what we can to do it. Moderation is a fair step, but I'd also state that with nutrition in particular, I think because we are so poor as a nation, like US and UK in particular, I think that moderation or average in a societal term isn't a good thing. I think we need to probably, and actually the advice I was getting, you've got to kind of be quite brave and courageous and stand up for, not saying you've got to proselytize, which is what I really don't want to come across as. It's just that, but you need to be like, no, I don't eat that, and that's it. And it's like, oh, well, why don't you eat that? It's like, because I don't eat processed foods, or I don't eat factory, oils or whatever. You, unfortunately, by making those calls, you'll be quite brave, because the average person absolutely will, and it's totally normal. So it's a real battle. So I think, so I wanted to make that point because I think it's important, but I think moderation in everything is really like a very healthy way to go. And for some people, if you were to take, well, it's okay, I can eat everything as long as it's in moderation, that's not a good rule for some people, because moderation opens up the window for me drinking, and moderation to them is, well, I only drink 2-3 times a week. And then in their head, because of that, they eat terribly, like I do maybe that evening or the day before, and they're gradually becoming more and more obese because I only drink twice a week. So for them, it's their body doesn't respond well to it. But I know other people that can have, a glass of wine daily, and they look as fit as anyone, because they are able to have that. They don't have the poor diet fallout before, which I'm unable to do. So it's about, we have to kind of, I think, be responsible for ourselves, to understand some of the basic sciences out there, and to try things out, and to be honest with ourselves, because we're so fallible. Like we're so susceptible to lying to ourselves and talking ourselves into something when it's not really the reality. But it's our body, and we've got to just take the hit for that, take responsibility.
I think that's a really fair point, and I think it's very dependent on the person. Because
Yeah.
when I look at things, I think how you feel is very important, and I think deep down people know to a certain degree, that there's certain things that they eat that make them feel bad, and certain things they eat that make them feel good. And sometimes people need help to identify what is actually feeling good, because sometimes you could eat a shit ton of McDonald's and that might make you feel good at that point, but maybe they don't know what it's like to feel good physically. Maybe
Yeah.
feeling like shit after every meal is what they just think is full. And when I look at something like fasting, I'm jumping around a little bit because this
No,
is a
carry on.
very but when I look at, let's say, fasting for myself, where I view, if you were to ask me to predict where that would run, I think there's a lot of benefits to fasting. I
I
think
agree.
people eat too many meals in a row. I think
I
I'm
agree.
one of them. I think sometimes I find, and I need to, when I'm doing my best, it's when I'm embracing that feeling of being hungry, because my meals taste better when I go into them hungry.
I
And
agree, mate. Same for me.
learning to be hungry when I go into a meal. Does that mean I need to take a 24, 48-hour fast from me? No. And I'm not saying that there isn't a benefit for other people to do that. But I always find that the the safe bet for a lot of people who maybe are the layperson like myself, and I don't have that drive to research to the same degree that you do, is to eat less. Just eat less meals. Give myself more of a break, but that doesn't mean I have to go on a 24-hour fast. And it's interesting how personal diet is for each person. And there's people that will identify with traits and things about themselves, and they'll be honest with themselves, and they'll be able to make decisions for themselves. And there's people that will need help with that because they're not capable of making those
I agree.
decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think the point on intermittent fasting is that came up in the it was give yourself a break was the section, and it was suggesting that there was some science that was done with people with women that had breast cancer, and they had a test group. Oh no, I might be wrong on that. That breast cancer definitely. I don't know if it was a test group or if they actually surveyed them, and the people during that process when they gave themselves a break overnight. Basically, the net result of all my rambling was that the women that left at least 13 hours break from their last meal to their first one, so eating at say no later than 8 p.m. and their first meal later than 9 a.m. Had a 33% reduction in it coming back. And there's more science to suggest that having that window between your last and meal and first one, and extending that, maybe pushing it 14 hours plus 16 and 18 hours, is there's a lot of benefit in that. But again, I actually think your point is spot on, mate, because you can suggest that. And I was speaking to one of the guys I was with on Saturday night, and he trains 7 days a week in grappling, and the kid's 20, and he may fall. I'm not saying he is, but he may fall in the bracket of he might need to eat more. He might need to, we might need to be talking about how he needs to get more calories in to kind of sustain the work that he's doing.
Sorry, you cut out, and I think I started speaking over you. When I played American football, when I was in high school, even I would train like really hard, like a professional athlete. For 2 or 3 years, and we would train like 2 hours just in full conditioning. We just at the end of every practice, it was like we would run until we were sick. I hated it. But then I would get home and I would just be like ravenous, like
Just
8 at night.
whatever you can get your hands on.
And I was growing. I think I grew about 4 inches during one of those years in height, and I gained like 60 pounds. And I don't think that's attributed to my food intake. I think when you're at that stage where you're 16 to even 22, 23, and you're training as an athlete, you probably are going to be at a deficit, or your body's metabolism is just through the roof, and you're going to be
Exactly. All the hormones
whatever
firing.
carbs, protein, just get that shit in.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, I'm conscious of time. It's interesting that I have things that I was going to raise that I haven't. I'm going to save those for future reference, because one of the things I wanted to raise, just remind me of this. We have had feedback on ways we can improve this show. And it all surrounded around me. So I'll share that when we come back next week.
I'd love to hear it, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to leave you waiting for it. But I want to share the two channels that, in case anybody wanted to hear who did watch this, that I use to help, that have really helped me with my sort of mind. And they're both outdoor channels. I recommend both of them. The one guy, it's such a simple, basic thing, but he's really killing it. And I'm just going to share my screen.
Yeah.
And the gentleman's name is Steve Wallace. I'm going to put a link. Not that Steve will ever watch this, but he does. His channel is all about just like basic camping. He's not a camping expert. He's just a guy who loves to go and camp out. And this one, he goes into it, the median. His wife drops him off. I'm just going to zip through at the side of a motorway here. And he's a Canadian. I think he's living outside of Edmonton. And he finds this strip of land in between the highway. And he goes and he camps out with just like a hammock and basic stuff, usually in the winter, cold weather. And it's quite cool to see if he can. He's got these catchphrases that he uses. Let me get the I won't get the volume on, but he's just got a real. No, well, I'm going to share the volume because even his tone of voice is just very soothing. Like he's got this really good talking voice and this really affable personality. Let me just share some of it for you.
I've got a similar channel. I'll maybe share it off air, Sean, but it's the guy is doing extremely well. He has two channels. One he talks and one he doesn't. He just works in the wood and you just hear him chopping wood.
They're probably be a little hungry this time of year, but I think they're still pretty well sleeping for the year.
So he's trying to find a little place in this wood where he can get through
the night. All the same. And that bark, if I know anything from watching real bushcraft channels, is that should burn. And failing
even if from watching real bushcraft channels. But it's just simple. You know, you're watching this guy just try to get through the night. And he's got these little phrases that you just kind of chuckle. So he's got this thing where he's going to hunker down, and he's got t-shirts now, and people love to hear him say it. And he's got, whenever he has a drink, he calls it a step 2. And I was Googling step 2 thinking it was a Canadian drink. But whenever he goes to a site and he sets up camp with his basic cheap camping gear or even just a blanket in the woods, step 1 is setting up camp. Step 2 is packing up a beer.
This is a mummy bag, good for -12. So that means for like around freezing, probably.
I don't want to have a beer.
I've used it successfully in some coldish weather. I got a little stove because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if there was going to be any. Start the fire and get the fire going.
I saw him have a drink there.
Whiskey here, and
see if he says step 2.
Aside from that, I brought smoked sausages today. They're Grimm's brand.
It's just so
that just
simple.
Makes me pleased because I'm
it
always
makes me
craving
happy
them every time we start up a campfire. And you know what? Tonight I'm having some. So I gotta.
No, he's not going to say here, but he then every night it's always a step 2, and he has his drink, and he's got all these different. You know, it's just I don't know. It's a simple channel.
Can I hook you up with one because I think you'd really like it? It's called My Self-Reliance. He's another Canadian. He was a Wall Street. He was a investment banker. He's got 1.5 million viewers. So this video is like a 1.5 hours. Is just basically walks into the wilderness. And you see him work on everything. So he starts from being in the city, and then and that's it, mate. You just hear him chop wood, work away. He won't say anything.
So there's another,
and it's just him and his dog with him out in the woods, and he's got a wife, and he's got his, it's the channel's fascinating, and then his other channel, which is Sean James, that's his name on the right hand side. That's the one where he talks, and he'll just say what he's doing, but you will feel. I've opened you up to something, mate. I think this. I think you'll love this.
So I'm running out of Steve Wallace videos to watch because I just sort of binge watch the guy. And Steve, if you ever are watching this, I'm a huge fan of this simplicity.
Let's get him on the show. Get him on the
modesty. Show. I think he's doing
down to earth.
There's another guy he's same thing. And actually, this is the first time I've ever understood what is the sound thing. What do they call it?
The sound boom.
No. But there's where people ASMR.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
And there's a channel called Living the Van Life, and there's this filmmaker who he lives in his van, and it's just he has this high quality film thing, and like one of my favorite things he does is he goes out in his van into the middle of a storm and he'll cook something. So he'll just take this Vanagon out, and his videos, like the quality, just make me whenever I'm stressed. I will
Just
watch
soothing.
these videos, and like he'll make meals, and it'll just be like he'll have the.
Putting out some heat, and what I've got here.
Let's get to it.
I mean, mate, there's just how it's just so undeniable, isn't it? That sound, the sizzle is just, and the crackling of the fire, and like treading paths on their feet with the snow when they walk. I just think there's something very primal about this. It's just undeniable.
I'll put this on when I was stressed at work the other day, and I put on this video, and I just had it on one of my screens, so my setup. And he is a phenomenal filmmaker. I can't recommend this channel.
This is awesome.
And you'll just hear like the music is really chilled, and you just hear him setting up his camp in the middle of the woods.
This is great filming as well. I agree with you, and the music as well.
He
something very.
Really,
go on.
It's the microphones he uses, though. If you listen to, he's got high quality boom mics on everything he's doing. Crunching around the snow, and then when he starts cooking, like you hear him put the ka-ching, the wood in there. Let me go back. Here it is.
This is what I'm talking about. Like, we need to turn screens off and be like back to this type of stuff. This is what we are meant to be doing. It isn't a surprise that we're drawn to this stuff, because this is what we did. Like, there's comfort. There's real comfort in this for a reason. It's real.
So anybody who watches this, I can't recommend these channels enough. I'm going to watch the Sean. What is it again, Sean?
My Self-Reliance.
My Self-Reliance.
That guitar that was on the start of this. That's his intro. He's got that type of guitar playing as well, and you hear him talk. He's got that low voice. He's not got a care in the world. He's just very laid back, and he answers questions, and he's got such a beautiful demeanor, just such a brilliant guy. Like, we need more people like that on the planet.
So he's just made a meal.
Seriously, I can definitely see why this dish could become very, very popular.
It's just so relaxing, just the one thing I've noticed about all of these people, we're going over time here, I'm sorry, but one of the things I've noticed with all three of these channels is how relaxed they are.
Yeah, grounded.
Their delivery is just it's so grounded, and like the Steve Wallace channel, he's not a filmmaker. It's all very basic, but you're just drawn into his.
It's real though.
Yeah, it's authentic, and
it's authentic.
He goes out into these little places and he hides with his tent, and he just tries to get into his little, set up his fire. He makes his food every night. And then he wakes up the next morning and talks about, like, you for whatever reason, you want to see the lights go on the next day and have him tell you how his sleep was in this middle of this median. It's so stupid, but it's just addicting.
No, I don't think it's stupid, mate. I really don't. I think that a challenge, I think most people would get something from it if they gave it a chance.
Well, I think we need to wrap it up, or else my wife will kill me.
I know you need to
She
go.
will murder me. But listen, mate, I really enjoyed this week. I think this is going to be one more for us, but I don't care. I really just enjoy the time. And
me
hopefully
too.
People will get value out of this as well. I don't think I'll have much to break this episode down, so I'm going to really push this as a fasting food discussion on our channel, and then we'll get this week, for anybody who's watching this, we would have aired Magnum PI. You're going to get two reviews back to back really this week. So you're going to get Magnum PI this week. I'm going to be not doing my voiceover, just so you know. I'm going to be trying to do sort of like a quick series with quick clips after a quick description. So hopefully that'll fill people in. I want to try to get to the review part more quickly, so it's a bit more succinct. So let me know what your thoughts are on watching that. And for anybody who is keen to know what's going on with us week in and week out, because we are quite good at keeping up on the socials. If you want to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, so Twitter is our hub. I mean, that's our wheelhouse next to YouTube. Facebook, that's where we are listening, and we are here. We are ready for your comments on Facebook. And then Instagram, we've got a crack team of marketing specialists working on the launch of our this is going to be key to our success. There's no doubt. Instagram is where it's at.
I'm going to hunker down right into Twitter right after this call, Sean.
Hunker down. I would recommend that one though. It's that median one to watch if you're ever going to watch a Steve Wallace. It's yeah, you want to hear him have a step 2, and you want to like. I almost messaged him saying I'm having my step 2. Just wanted to share with him. Just let him know I'm having a step 2. All right, mate. Well, listen, thank you so much this week. We will catch up next
Thank
week.
you,
with
mate.
Murder, She Wrote. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm
Me
looking
too.
forward more to getting your opinion on it. That's what I'm excited about.
Well, I'm excited to give it a go and to give you my honest opinion. And I'm sure Lou is equally as excited. So
Yes.
thanks again for everything you do, buddy. And I will speak to you next week.
All right. We'll catch up soon, mate. Take care.
See ya.